Over the past few days, the world suddenly started talking about one word again, a virus. Not COVID, not monkeypox, Hantavirus. And this time, the panic started after reports emerged from an international cruise ship called MV Hondius. Several suspected cases were reported, multiple deaths were linked to the outbreak, and suddenly social media exploded. People started asking, is this another pandemic? Are we heading into another lockdown? Is the world about to repeat 2020 again? But here's the thing, most people are talking about Hantavirus right now, but don't actually know what it is. Because unlike COVID, Hantavirus doesn't spread the same way. And the truth is, the real story behind Hantavirus is far more complicated than people think. First, what exactly is Hantavirus? Hantavirus is a zoonotic virus. That means it spreads from animals to humans, specifically rats and rodents. According to Malaysia's Ministry of Health, Hantavirus is usually transmitted through exposure to rat urine, saliva, or droppings, especially when contaminated particles become airborne. So this is important. You usually don't get Hantavirus from simply standing next to someone. This is not like COVID-19. Most Hantavirus infections happen when people inhale contaminated dust particles in areas with rodent infestation. Places like abandoned buildings, dirty storage areas, cabins, farm, forests, or poorly ventilated spaces. That's why many Hantavirus cases historically happen among campers, farmers, military personnel, construction workers, and people exposed to wild environments. Now, here's where things get interesting. The version of Hantavirus currently making headlines is believed to involve something called the Andes virus. And this strain is rare because unlike most Hantaviruses, the Andes virus has shown limited human-to-human transmission in certain cases in South America. That's the part making health authorities pay attention right now. But before people panic, there's something important to understand. Human-to-human transmission for Hantavirus is extremely rare. Most Hantavirus strains around the world still spread mainly through rodents, not through casual contact, not through walking past strangers. And according to Malaysia's Ministry of Health, there are currently no reported Hantavirus cases in Malaysia. The ministry also stated that the current public risk in Malaysia remains low. But of course, that doesn't stop public fear, because after COVID, people react differently now whenever they hear the word virus. The psychological impact is huge. Back in 2020, the world underestimated COVID at first. So now every unusual disease immediately creates anxiety online, and social media makes it worse. One viral post, one misleading headlines, one dramatic TikTok. Suddenly, people think the apocalypse is starting again. But medically speaking, Hantavirus and COVID are very different diseases. COVID spreads efficiently through respiratory droplets between humans. That's why it became a global pandemic. Hantavirus, however, behaves differently. Transmission usually requires exposure to infected rodent waste, and even then, not everyone exposed becomes severely ill. However, when Hantavirus becomes serious, it can be very dangerous. Some strains can cause something called Hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, or HPS. This affects the lungs. Early symptoms often look normal at first, such as fever, muscle pain, fatigue, headaches, which is why many people ignore it initially. But later, patients can suddenly develop severe breathing problems, and that's where the danger begins. In severe cases, mortality rates can be high. That's one reason health authorities never take Hantavirus lightly. Now let's talk about why cruise ships create concern. Cruise ships are basically floating cities, thousands of people, shared facilities, closed environments, international passengers. So whenever an infectious disease appears on board, global health organizations immediately monitor the situation closely. According to the Ministry of Health statement, the World Health Organization is currently monitoring the MV Hondius cluster. Malaysia's health authorities are also strengthening preparedness measures under international health regulations, or also known as IHR 2005. And honestly, this part is important because many people think governments only react after outbreaks happen. But a modern disease surveillance actually starts long before that. Malaysia has already increased its port inspections, ship sanitary monitoring, rodent surveillance, laboratory preparedness, international health monitoring systems. In fact, between January and May 2026 alone, more than 22,000 ships and boats were inspected at Malaysia's international entry point. That's something many people don't see behind the scenes. Disease control isn't just hospital, it's airports, port, sanitation system, environmental monitoring, international cooperation. Now here's another important thing people misunderstanding. Hantavirus itself isn't new. Scientists have known about hantaviruses for decades. Major outbreaks were documented in places like the United States, Argentina, Chile, China, and Korea. In fact, the term hantavirus originated from the Hantan River area during the Korean War, where soldiers became infected. So this isn't some mysterious brand new virus suddenly appearing out of nowhere. The difference today is within the information that spreads globally within minutes, and fear spreads even faster. That's That's why one cluster on a cruise ship can suddenly dominate headlines worldwide. Now let's talk about something bigger. Why are zoonotic diseases becoming more common globally? Because humans are increasingly invading natural ecosystem. Deforestation, urban expansion, climate change, wildlife disruption, all these factors increase contact between humans and animal carriers, not just rats, bats, birds, mosquitoes, wild animals. And when ecosystems become unstable, disease spillovers become more likely. That's why many experts believe the future global health threats may continue coming from zoonotic diseases. COVID was one warning, Hantavirus is another reminder. But reminder does not automatically mean pandemic, and that distinction matters because fear without facts creates chaos. What people should focus on right now is awareness and prevention. Malaysia's Ministry of Health advised the public to first, avoid direct contact with rats and rodent waste. Second, wear gloves and masks when cleaning contaminated areas. Third, avoid sweeping rat droppings directly because particles can spread into the air. And fourth, seek medical attention if symptoms appear after exposure to risky environments. Simple steps. Don't panic, and honestly, this situation also shows how much the world has changed after COVID. 5 years ago, most people probably wouldn't care about a small virus cluster on a ship somewhere overseas. Today, the entire internet reacts instantly because people now understand how interconnected the world really is. A virus from one corner of the world and can affect economies, travel, stock markets, politics, and daily life globally. That psychological scar from COVID is still there, and maybe it will stay there for a very long time. There is no evidence that Hantavirus is becoming another COVID-level pandemic, and according to Malaysia's health authorities, the public risk in Malaysia still very low, remains low. But this situation is still a reminder. The modern world is deeply connected, diseases spread fast, information flows faster, but fear advances the fastest. And sometimes the biggest danger isn't only the virus itself, but how panic spreads before fact do.